courage and no sacrifice in doing what is expedient. What do you say to those viewers that don't pursue their dreams and are locked in their careers because they are too afraid that don't pursue their dreams and they are too afraid to take risks and pursue something meaningful?
Well, the first thing I would say is, well, you should be afraid of taking risks and pursuing something meaningful. But you should be more afraid of staying where you are if it's making you miserable. You're paying a price by sitting there being miserable. You might say, well, the devil I know is better than the one I don't. It's like, don't be so sure of that. The clock is ticking.
Yeah,
and if you're miserable in your job now and you change nothing, in 5 years you'll be much more miserable and you'll be a lot older.
But isn't it a luxury to pursue what is meaningful? Our viewers have mortgages, they have children, they have payments and loans. It's a luxury to pursue because we lack the resources.
Well, I don't remember now, I'm not talking about what makes you happy. It's a luxury to pursue what makes you happy. It's a moral obligation to pursue what you find meaningful. And that doesn't mean it's easy. It might require sacrifice. If you need to change your job too, let's say you have a family and children and a mortgage, you have responsibilities. You've already picked up those responsibilities. You don't just get to walk away scot-free and say, well, I don't like my job, I quit. That's no strategy. But what you might have to do is you think, well, this job is killing my soul. All right, so what do I have to do about that? Well, I have to look for another job. Well, no one wants to hire me. It's like, okay, maybe you need to educate yourself more. Maybe you need to update your curriculum vitae, your resume. Maybe you need to overcome your fear of being interviewed. Maybe you need to sharpen your social skills. Like, you have to think about these things strategically. If you're going to switch careers, you have to do it like an intelligent, responsible person. That might take you a couple of years of effort to do properly. We're built for struggle, us human beings. We're built to contend with the world. We're built to contend with reality. You want a challenge, and the best way that you can take on a challenge, because a challenge fortifies you. So you don't want to be secure, you want to be strong. And you get strong by taking on optimal challenges. And so you lay out your destiny in the world, and you take the slings and arrows of fate, and you make yourself stronger while you're doing so. And you might fail, and fortune might do you in, but it's your best bet. And you know, people have extracted unbelievable successes out of catastrophic failures. And I'm not saying that in a naive way. I know perfectly well what happens to people. You know, you're doing fine in life, and then you get cancer, and then 6 months later you're dead. And all the heroism in the world isn't going to save you at that point. But that's not the point. That's not the point. Life is bounded by mortality. But that doesn't mean that you don't get out there and contend. And you develop by contending, and you minimize the net amount of suffering in the world. And that's something, man. That's something to do. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. Because you need to have a hierarchy of improvement. You need to be aiming for something, and that means you're going to be lesser than people who've already attained along that dimension. So the question is, who should you defeat in the final analysis? And the answer is, you should defeat your former self. You should be constantly trying to do that. And you're the right control for yourself too, because you're the one who's had all your advantages and disadvantages. And so if you want to compete fairly with someone, then you should be competing with you. If you're improving yourself, then what you are doing is competing with your lesser self. And then you might also ask, well, what is that lesser self? And that lesser self would be resentful and bitter and aggressive and vengeance-seeking and all of those things that go along with having a negative moral character. And those are things that interfere with your ability to progress as you move forward through life. So it's very necessary to understand that this is why, you know, I've been stressing this idea of personal responsibility. It's like, well, personal responsibility is to compete with yourself, is to be slightly better than yourself the next day. And it's better in some way that you can actually manage, and that's humility. Like, well, I'm a flawed person, I've got all my problems, could I be as good as person X? It's like not the right question. The right question is, could you be slightly better tomorrow than your currently flawed self? And the answer to that is, if you have enough humility to set the bar properly low, then you could be better tomorrow than you are today. And you might say, well, what's the right way of being in the world, if there is such a thing? And it's not acting according to a set of rules. It's attempting continually to transcend the flawed thing that you currently are. And what's so interesting about that is that the meaning in life is to be found in that pursuit. So I've been laying that out in these discussions too, because it's saying, well, the fundamental issue is that life is tragic and difficult, very tragic and difficult for everyone. And it's also tainted by malevolence, because no matter how things are tragic and difficult, but there's always some stupid thing that you could do or someone else could do that could make it even worse than it has to be. So that's life. And you need an antidote to that, because that can embitter you. Constant contact with that. Just the tragedy, but the tragedy combined with betrayal and malevolence, that makes it even worse, especially if it's self-induced. Okay, so you need something to set against that so you don't get bitter and resentful. Well, what do you set against that? Doing something worthwhile, by your own definition, say. You need some reason to get the hell out of bed on a terrible day because you've got something good to do. Well, what's the best thing you can do? Transcend your current wretched and miserable self. There's meaning to be found in that, and that's a meaning that's associated with responsibility. One of the things that I've been trying to lay out clearly is that life is hard. It's tainted by malevolence and betrayal. That can make you bitter. You need a meaning to offset that. Where's the meaning to be found? Not in rights, not in impulsive pleasure, but in responsibility. You take responsibility for yourself, so you take care of yourself. If you're good at it, you have some excess left over to take care of your damn family. If you're good at both of those, then you have some excess left over to take care of your community. Those are heavy burdens. You pick up the burdens, you find that's meaningful. The best way to pick up the burden is to continually improve yourself. And that's where the meaning is to be found. And so that meaning is in the continual self-transcendence. That's letting your old self die and the new self be reborn. Even if things are going really well for you now, there's going to be a time in the future where things are rough. You know, you're going to be ill, family member's going to be ill, a dream is going to fall apart, you're going to be uncertain about your employment status. Like the flood is coming, right? The apocalypse is coming. It's always the case in life. And you have to be prepared for it. And the question is how to prepare for it. And the answer to that is to find a way of being that works even under the direst of circumstances. You've got the possibility to slowly raise yourself out of the mire. You've got the possibility to do just what the fighter does when he's defeated, which is to say, well, regardless of the circumstances that might have led to my defeat, like even if there were errors on the part of the referee, this is no time to whine about it. This is a time to take stock of what I did wrong so that I can improve it into the future. And that's the right attitude. The point is, your best strategic position is, how am I insufficient and how can I rectify that? That's what you've got. And the thing is, you are insufficient. And you could rectify it. Both of those are within your grasp, if you aim low enough. And I don't mean don't aim, and I don't mean don't aim up. But you have to accept the fact that you can set yourself a goal that you can attain, and there's not going to be much glory in it to begin with. Because if you're not in very good shape, the goal that you could attain tomorrow isn't very glorious. But it's a hell of a lot better than nothing, and it beats the hell out of bitterness, and it's way better than blaming someone else. It's way less dangerous. And you could do it. And what's cool about it, it's one step on a very long journey. And it starts to compound on you. So a small step today puts you in a position to take a slightly bigger step the next day. And then that puts you in a position to take a slightly bigger step the next day. And you do that for 2 or 3 years, man, you're starting to stride. I don't know how many people have come and told me. It's so strange. They said, well, I started making my bed and that made all the difference. It's like, well, yeah, you decided to aim up, man. And the first concrete instantiation of that was that you made your bed. You think, well, that's nothing heroic. It's like, no, but aiming up is heroic. That's something. And then lowering yourself to the point where you're not above the mess in your room. You know, you're not superordinate to that. You lower yourself so that you straighten up. You're grateful for what you have right in front of you, and you take care of it and you put it in order. It's like all of a sudden things start to get better. And one of the reasons that audiences are responding to what I've been saying in my lectures and what I've been writing about is that I don't tell people that they're okay the way they are. No, I say, no, you could be way more than you are. And they're relieved about that, you see, because if you're in a dark and terrible place and someone says you're okay the way you are, then you don't know what to do about that. It's right. Like, no, I'm not. I'm having a terrible time and I'm hopeless. You're okay the way you are. Well, then what? What? That's it? That's where I am? And what do you want to tell a young person? You're 17. You're okay the way you are. It's like, no, you're not. You got 60 years to be better. And you could be way better. You could be incomparably better across multiple dimensions. And in pursuing that better, that's where you'll find the meaning in your life. And that will give you the antidote to the suffering. This is the trick, though. You have to pick a path of discipline. What path of discipline you have to pick is a different issue. So there could be a rule. The rule might not be follow this rule. The rule might be you have to follow some rules. So it's a meta rule. And the meta rule is you have to discipline yourself. And the issue is, well, how? That's not really the relevant question. You can pick a disciplinary path. That's why I often tell my clients, especially young people, they say, well, I don't know what to do. It's like, that's okay. Nobody does. Go do something. Do the best thing that you can think of. Put the best plan you have into practice. It's not going to be perfect, and it will change along the way. But it will change partly because you become disciplined pursuing the path. And as you become disciplined, you become wiser. And as you become wiser, you become able to formulate better and better plans. So you can start vaguely and confused and develop a plan that's not so great, and you start to implement it, and then you accrue incremental wisdom as you implement your flawed plan, and that enables you to fix the plan. And so that's part of that process of incremental self-improvement as well. Imagine you only have $100,000 to go buy a house. And so you go look at this house, and it's like, Jesus, this house, man, it's like it needs a lot of work. It's like, well, that's all you've got. Well, are you going to pretend that the house is okay the way it is? Or are you going to look for where it's rotten and where the plumbing doesn't work and where the stove doesn't work? You have to go and look and see where everything needs to be fixed. And that is harsh, man. And then in order to do that properly, someone has to have taught you, look, you aren't your problems. You're most fundamentally that which, if it confronts its problems, can solve them. And that's the hero myth in a nutshell, by the way. The hero is the person who confronts horrible, chaotic potential and tames it and makes something of it, right? That's the fundamental human story. But the problem is that you have to face what you don't want to face in order to fix it. So you look at all the things about yourself that need to be burned off, that need to be dispensed with. And that, man, especially at the beginning, especially if you're screwed up, that may be like 95% of you. It's not pleasant. But if you know that you're the thing that can transcend your problems, most fundamental, if you know you're the thing that, if it faces the problems, can transcend them, then you have the faith that would enable you to take stock of who you are. My daughter was very ill when she was a kid, but particularly when she was a teenager. She had a very terrible time of it. She had juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and when she was between the ages of 14 and 16, it first destroyed her hip, which had to be replaced, and then it destroyed the ankle on her other leg, which had to be replaced. And she walked around for 2 years on broken legs, and she was taking massive doses of opiates and could hardly stay awake. And, and as a test of your faith, there's almost nothing that's more direct than a serious illness inflicted upon an innocent child, right? And so the chapter's a meditation on that, and also on, well, what to do in a situation like that, because everyone is going to have a situation like that in some sense, because you're being faced with illness in the people that you love and in crisis. And so it's a practical guide to coping with those sorts of things. Like, and one of the things you do when you're overwhelmed by crisis is you shorten your time frame. It's like you can't think about next month. Maybe you can't even bloody well think about next week, or maybe not even tomorrow. Because now is just so overwhelming that that's all there is. It's like, and that's what you do. You cut your time frame back until you can cope with it. And if it's not the next week that you see how to get through, then it's the next day. And if it's not the next day, then it's the next hour. And if it's not the next hour, then it's the next minute. And people are very, 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 very tough. And it turns out that if you face things that you can put up with a lot more than you think you can put up with, and you can do it without becoming corrupted. You have to be alert when you're suffering. You have to be alert to the beauty in life, the unexpected beauty in life. And, you have to look for that little bit of sparkling crystal in the darkness when things are bad. You have to look and see where things are still beautiful and where there's still something that's sustaining. You narrow your time frame and you be grateful for what you have, and that can get you through some very dark times. And maybe even successfully if you're lucky, but even if unsuccessfully, then maybe it's only tragic and not absolute hell. And you can do that, in the worst situation. You can make it only tragic and not hell. And there's a big gap between tragedy and hell. There's nothing worse at a deathbed than to see the people there fighting. The death is bad enough, but you can take that, as terrible as it is, and make it into something that's absolutely unbearable. And maybe I think...
Why I think I fight. Do I enjoy it? No. Do I enjoy training? No. Do I enjoy cutting weight? No. Am I nervous? Yes. Do I think to myself, what am I doing? Yes. Completely. Unfortunately, it's one of those things you're either born with or you're not. And the only way I can explain it, to try and make it make any sense, is that if I'm not doing something which is either extremely difficult or extremely stressful, I'm in a perpetual state of crippling boredom. I can't explain it. I see other people live their lives and they're like, oh, I can't wait for the weekend because I want to watch this movie. I think, who cares about a movie? You're looking forward to the weekend for a movie? You're looking forward to the weekend to get drunk? Like, these things to me are so mundane. They mean nothing. And if I don't fight, if I'm not in a situation where I'm stressed or worried or concerned, I'm just perpetually bored. And boredom's crippling. If you're an intelligent person and you've got a good brain on your shoulders, you can't just sit there, you know? So most smart people take the academic route to avoid boredom. They learn. But that's never really interested me either. Although I've always been an intelligent guy and I've always done well academically, it never really interested me. And then I see people climb Mount Everest or jump off buildings or do base jumping, or the guy who jumped from space. People think, what's he doing? He's crazy. I understand. Because some people can't live normal lives. Some people cannot just function 9 to 5 office jobs on weekends. That is not for some individuals, and it's not for me. So I have to find something which keeps me physically tired enough to stop me going AWOL, and mentally tired enough. And I've chosen fighting, because without this, when I'm not in training, I wake up every day and think, okay, what am I going to do today? It's 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, I'm bored, everyone's at work, I'm bored, and I'll end up doing something crazy. I'll either end up drunk, or on the Eurostar, or, you know, it's just a random lifestyle, because I'm constantly looking for never-ending entertainment, and it doesn't exist. I think the only thing that could stop me fighting is if I had enough money to constantly entertain myself. Unless I'm a billionaire, I need something that keeps me focused and keeps me occupied in life. With fighting, I have to train twice a day, and I have to train hard, and the stress it brings in every aspect can replace fun, and my mind is occupied. It occupies me. It's the only way I can try and explain it. It occupies me, and I could never stop doing this, even if I lost 100 fights, because I'm not built to live a normal existence. I can't do it. I couldn't just have a kid with some girl and sit at home and work a little bit and relax. I've never relaxed my entire life. I don't know what relaxing is. It's just not me.
I was a 4-time kickboxing world champion. For 12 years, I trained 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I was motivated to train probably about 25% of the time. The rest of the time, I went because I am disciplined. You don't feel like going through that shit on a Wednesday morning when you wake up, but you have to do it because you're disciplined. You're either a disciplined individual or you are not a disciplined. There's a difference between want and want. And I say this all the time. People say to me, I want to be rich. And I say, okay, well, I want to be able to ice skate. But I don't want to be able to ice skate enough to go learn how to ice skate, so I can't be bothered. I mean, surely, if I could click my fingers and be a figure skater, I'd click my fingers. Who wouldn't? Well, I don't want to actually go train, because I don't want it enough. And this is the exact point with money. Everyone wants money put on their lap. If you truly wanted money, you wouldn't be able to sleep until you fucking had it. And this is the point. Because when I had nothing, I couldn't be distracted. You couldn't distract me from what I wanted. That's who I am. If I want something, I'm going to get it. I do not need to be motivated. I'm a disciplined person. If I allocate X amount of time to work, I'm going to do it. But that is the bottom line answer. It's discipline. You're going to have to work when you don't feel like working. That's how it's going to have to be, or you're never going to be in it. One of the only things in this world you can control is your state of mind. You can't control the weather. You can't control other people. You can't even control your health. You might get a brain hemorrhage, or you might get hit by a bus. One of the very few things in the world you have genuine control over is your state of mind. You decide if you're a disciplined person. You decide if you're a happy person. You decide if you're a depressed person. These are things that in real time you can affect in your brain. This is all you can control on Earth. If you can't control that, then you're just a feather in the wind. And life's going to blow you around, and you might land somewhere good, you might land dog shit, nobody knows. Your state of mind is what you're supposed to control. If you can't wake up and say, today I'm making some money, and actually try your very, very best, and actually stay dedicated to that task, if you can't do that, you're fired. Every man understands you shouldn't be complaining about things you cannot change. You have to play the cards you're dealt. To be born a certain height and then to sit there and go, what do I do? I'll tell you what you do. You become the best version of yourself, just like everyone else does. Nothing about the height is in and of itself enough value for me to be a valuable man. As a man, you build your value. You are born with the cards you're dealt. Sure, it'd be ideal. Look, I'd love to be 7 foot tall. I'm not. So it's the same argument. If you're 5'2", you need to become rich, strong, and funny, and charismatic, and interesting, and witty. If you're 6'4", you need to become rich, strong, well-connected. It's the same game. So to sit there and complain about it is asinine. All of you have a handful of exes. I don't think you understand that. You could have been in a car crash at 4 years old and lost your legs. Do you have any understanding of how lucky you have been? This is pure luck. There's no this only luck has kept you fully able-bodied, sitting there, capable of learning and listening and becoming something.
What are you doing?
You don't really need to be that tall if you're important and rich, and when you walk in the room, you think when fucking Mayweather walks in the room, people give a shit? Fix that frame in your mind. You are viewing yourself as a short man. Stop it. Walk the fuck up and be the man.
You talk a lot about purpose, why we are created as humans and why we are here. What is the purpose of life? Why have we been given life?
I think we're here to struggle and to learn. I don't think we're here to be happy. That's why when we keep going back to the happy argument, I've always found that kind of frustrating and annoying. Yeah. And someone goes, oh, but I want to be happy. Why? Why? Why do you want to sit there and laugh? Like you were happy your entire childhood. That's your happy days. You're allowed to be happy as a kid. It's all over now, right? You're a man. You have responsibilities. I think we're here to do important things, and important things are going to be difficult, and they're going to be hard, and you're going to get frustrated. But that's what gives you purpose. I think we're here to struggle. I think we're here to endure pain. Yeah. I think we're here to just see how hard we are to kill. I think that going through terrible things and living through them and coming out the other side is one of the most fantastic things about being human. I think that it's almost like once you understand what life is really about, there's no emotion which isn't enjoyable. The only emotional state which can be seen as detrimental is feeling nothing at all. But if you're sitting at home and you're feeling truly heartbroken, at least you're feeling something, right? And I think that's the whole part of being human. I think we're here to struggle. I think we're here to go through pain. I wake up each day and go, what can I attack? What problem can I solve? And look at history. Why did Genghis Khan wake up and want to conquer the whole world? Why did Napoleon conquer the world? Why did Alexander the Great conquer the world? You just wake up and just say, give me this, give me that. I want all of it. Yeah. There's an army there. They're really big. We're better. It's intrinsic. You need to go and conquer. That's the purpose of life.
Do you believe that God created us? So why did God create us to struggle?
Because if you don't struggle, you don't learn. God created us to learn and understand ourselves and understand other people and understand the world. And what did I say earlier? I said that you don't learn a lesson without pain. So you have to struggle to learn anything. There's only two ways to learn things, the hard way or the harder way. If you're smart, you can learn the hard way. But in my experience, 99% of the planet only learn the hardest possible. If you want to feel happy inside of yourself, and you want to feel content, and you want to feel stable inside of yourself, you need to live true to God. And I'm not saying you can't drink a little bit of alcohol or not party or not have a little bit of fun, but you have to be a good person. I don't believe in the societal paradigms in which they have tried to construct this idea of happiness. I don't believe or subscribe to the way that happy and sad is currently understood by the masses of the population. I think if you are anything less than absolutely distraught, you are happy. You're a version of happy. It's like saying gray is a version of black, right? No matter how light the gray is, you can still call it a version of black. And unless you've gone through an event, which hopefully doesn't happen too often, like the passing of a family member or something that's truly destructive and detrimental to your mindset, besides these events, which hopefully only happen a few times in your life, you should be happy. If you're not crying or paralyzed in silence due to the absolute magnitude of a detrimental circumstance or the absolute magnitude of a negative event, then you are a version of happy. So I am always happy is the short answer. I don't believe in not being happy. I don't believe in not saying to myself I'm happy. I'm always a version of happy. And this idea of chasing happiness and always being concerned and preoccupied with how happy you are is actually the biggest mistake that a lot of people make, I think, in the world today. especially men who wake up and go, oh, I don't really feel happy, so I need to get happier, and that's how they end up down a hedonistic path of drugs or alcohol or gambling, chasing pleasure. I don't care how I feel.
Yeah.
I don't care if I feel happy or sad. It doesn't really affect what I do each day. I do the exact same things. I act the exact same way. I don't care. I don't put weight to the significance of the emotion. So I always consider myself a happy person, but if I woke up and I was slightly less happy one day than another, it wouldn't affect anything I do, and I wouldn't put any relevance to it. I'm human, and that's life. So yeah, am I any happier now that I have hundreds of millions of dollars than before I was broke? Not really, but I was never unhappy. I'm the same state that I was then, that I am now. I have work to do, and I will do it. It's as simple as that. Well, also, there's no light without dark, and there's no joy without pain. You can't have a rainbow without a little rain. No matter how hard you chase pleasure and happiness, there's going to be dips and troughs in between. There's going to be come downs and downtrends, and you're going to have the juxtaposition between that time you were laughing your head off and acting giddish like a child, and the time that you feel depressed as such. And I think it's much better to just adopt a very disciplined, stoic mindset. I'm always the same base level of happy regardless. If I lost all of my money today, I would be the same happy. If my net worth quadrupled, I'd be the same happiness. But as long as I'm alive and the people I care about and love are alive, and as long as God gives me the honor of doing my duties and providing for the people I care about, as long as I get to wake up and know that there's a whole bunch of people in the world who need me, and I get to work hard to please them and do good for society and good for the world, then I'm a vessel of God, and I'm happy enough to survive. That's all I look at it as. I don't ever consider how do I feel. That doesn't cross my mind. I have things to do. I'm too busy. I have things to do every single day. I have very important things to do, and how I feel really is not going to affect how I complete those tasks. Motivation isn't real. Everyone says this. Motivation is not real. Discipline is real. I do not feel like training, but I still train because I'm a disciplined individual. You don't get to go through life only doing the things you feel like doing. So this is down to you, my friend. And listen, you may feel fired up for 10 minutes after this little talk, but you're not going to feel fired up forever. You need to put systems in place. You need to get discipline. You need to get an atmosphere of people around you who are going to keep you accountable and not make it easy for you to continue to be a f***ing nobody. And then you're going to fix your life. Otherwise, you're going to stay nobody.
You're tired. You don't want to work. You want to go to sleep or just relax. You do it anyway.
That is the most basic imperative of the masculine frame, which has been destroyed in real time. They are trying to convince you that you should act how you feel. You should show more of your feelings. If you feel this way, you should show it. If you want to cry, cry. What I'm saying is the reason they're trying to bring out emotionality in you is because of exactly what Myron said. Most of the time, you don't feel like doing the things you're supposed to do. But the true masculine frame throughout history was doing the things they didn't want to do, but they knew they had to do because they had honor and duty. That's what honor and duty means. Do you think the men on the Titanic wanted to stay on the fucking Titanic? No! We're men. We have to stay. We're scared, but we must. It's our duty to let the women and children on the lifeboats. This is masculine duty. A good man controls himself. I have absolute self-control. Emotional control is absolutely and utterly important as a man. I'm saying that you need to understand as a man, there are certain principles under which you act, regardless of how you feel. I can wake up in a terrible mood. I can wake up sad. I can ache. I can have a busy day, stressed, etc. I will complete the same tasks as if I woke up in a fantastic mood. I'll do the same things because how I feel has no bearing on the things I'm going to do in my day because I have duty to myself.
Is out there.
Thank you so much, Taylor. So the cap for this PK is actually at 200,000.
Go to a bar and when you ask for the Suns game, they actually can get it. No blackouts. The team is making moves. They're sending out players. They're bringing players in. There's just a lot still to talk about as it pertains to the Phoenix Suns. So now that we've hit summer in full stride, just a programming note for all of you out there who are either watching along live or watching at a later time or listening on the podcast feed. Matthew and I will be coming to you live every Monday night, 9 p.m. This time slot, this day, once a week. That's what we're doing. There's no post-game pods anymore to do. So that's what we'll be doing moving forward. Monday nights, 9 p.m. Arizona time, you will get the Suns Jam Session podcast. That way we'll have more to talk about, or maybe less to talk about, because July, August. Ugh. So that's the game plan. Now that being said, Matthew couldn't make it. Matthew, again, busy guy, living his life, doing his stuff, pursuing his dreams. That's okay, because I am joined from the He's on Fires podcast, none other than Jay Joyce. I'm clicking the button. There we go. What up, Jay Joyce? How we doing?
I'm doing all right. Thank you, John, for having me back on. After popping my cherry a couple months ago, I'm back for seconds. Hit it, yeah. So I'm back.
Just remember, don't fuck up.
Yeah.
I do love that we're both, for some reason, wearing Kevin Durant shirts. You got that old Nike Dry Fit. I got like the KD, statement edition kind of look thing. It's interesting. Like, we did not call each other before. Hey man, what's up, Jay? What are you wearing? Need some KD stuff? No, none of that. Just pure luck. And we're not talking about Kevin Durant at all in this podcast. So this is his one chance. So what's going on? How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. Just going through the motions. Working outside is a pain in the ass right now. So.
Oh God, you work outside?
Yeah, I do pest control. So I'm outside 99% of the day, and
God bless you.
Yeah, so I'm waiting for this monsoon to kick in, just so I have some water on my face. So.
Yeah, it's so. What was today? Like the 18th consecutive day over 110 degrees.
Oh my God.
Which is ties the record from 1974, and we will break that tomorrow. And I can empathize with you. I worked outside for 15 consecutive years. I worked in the hotel industry, and at all my jobs, I was a bellman outside. I managed the pool experience outside. And I think it's the second summer where it's like I'm inside. And it's amazing. I gotta tell you, this air conditioning thing all day long, I'm like, whoa. And my wife makes fun of me because she's like, you used to be so much more resilient when it came to the heat. Now you complain about it all the time. After you're out there, like when it's 117 every day, you're just like, yeah, okay. Good, better, or different. You kind of get used to it. It's shitty.
Yeah, like the talker is like the summer started kind of late. It started like late June-ish, and then it just fucking punched us all in the face with the humidity. So it sucks right now.
I know. Yeah, June was chill. And then it's like, okay, because we gave you a chill June, just fucking 118 every day. Just crank that fucker up. Ugh. It's not fair, man. It's not fair. Well, again, thank you for joining us on the Suns Jam Session podcast. Can you let everybody know where they can follow you? And if they want to follow you while you're doing pest control, can you tell them what your normal route is? Maybe they can do that.
Yeah, sure. My Twitter is JJoyce, JAYY Joyce on Twitter. You can follow me there, mostly Suns content, and you can also follow me on the He's on Fire podcast. We don't really have a set schedule, so catch us when you catch us. And then pest control, I'm not going to put my company out there like that. Just hit me up and I'll put you on the route, whatever.
Like, yo, if you got some scorpions, call up Jay Joyce. He'll spray them little fuckers, and you'll be
I'm
good.
the fucking Reaper out here, dude.
Yeah. The Grim Reaper is on the pod, and the Slim Reapers who we're representing. It all wow, just sometimes it all works out. So again, everybody, you can follow me at Darth Woody. You can read my writing at brightsideofthesun.com, and you can follow the show at Suns Jam on Instagram, Twitter, and the TikTok. So without further ado, I'm going to pop open a Suns Brew over here. Four Peak Suns Brew. And pop what you got in Suns fans. Got a lot to talk about, so let's get to it, huh? I don't care if it's July 17th, there's still plenty to talk about as it relates to the Phoenix Suns. The first thing I wanted to bring up today is the fact that we have a new member of the Phoenix Suns, and his name is Bol. Don't know if you've heard of him. New guy, really, really tall guy, right? What is he, like 7'2", has a 7'8" wingspan. He's just somebody who is very unique to watch. And if you go through and you start to watch all of his highlights, everybody gets really excited because the way that they see him operate in transition, the way that they see him, dunk over guys because he's so long, they're amazed by some of the ability that this guy has. And I know that he's been a member of the Phoenix Suns for just over 24 hours now, but he already gets a drop.
Look, up in the sky! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's...
Bold. Yeah. Bold, motherfucker. So, Bull's a son, Jay. What do you think?
Like, we've kind of known about this for, like, the last, 2 weeks, so it's kind of whatever. But, I'm kind of a fan of Bull. I kind of root for guys like his caliber with, like Taco Fall and stuff like that. You kind of just wish, the best for them and stuff. But I think acquiring Bull is kind of like a low-risk, high-reward sort of situation. So I didn't really see an issue with acquiring them to begin with. Of course, I would have liked a player in exchange for campaign, but, hey, I'll take the draft capital. People have been bitching and moaning about us not having picks from outside the Sun sphere. So we got a handful of second-round picks, and then with us getting Bull, it's a project guy that we can work with. And Bull thinks he is a KD caliber sort of shooter. So now he's playing with KD, and maybe he'll listen a little bit, pick up a thing or two, so maybe he can be in a rotation a little down the line.
Yeah, there was other transactions. You referenced a couple of those, and I want to get to those momentarily because I do think that it's valuable, and it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't things that Suns fans just kind of live with. Like, we don't have any picks. We just made a trade, and we got some picks. We gave up too much. We gave up a pick swap for two. It's just like, settle down, everybody. Shit. But when you look at Bull, obviously he had his best season last season with the Orlando Magic. Prior to last season, he had played 3 years in Denver and played a total of 53 games and 2 starts in 3 seasons. Very injury prone, somebody who just couldn't see himself onto the court, somebody who didn't necessarily fit into their system, I feel. Although he's 7'2", he's not a center because of his lack of physicality. He's not a power forward because of his lack of skill, in my opinion. He's somebody who can handle the ball a little bit like a guard, but his shooting is, you mentioned he looks up to KD. He's somebody who wants to emulate him and wants to be like him, but he is not KD. I'll tell you that. You look at his career three-point percentage, and it's 29.3%. Yeah. So, he's a 53% shooter overall, and obviously a lot of that comes on dunks. But when you look at what he did last season with Orlando, he played in 70 games. He started 33 for them. He had 9.1 points. He ended with 5.8 total rebounds per game. Again, from 3, 26.5. So I'm interested by the Bull phenomenon because he's so unique looking with his height and his length. Very Victor Wembanyama-esque. When you see him on the court, you're like, that guy just doesn't look like everybody else. But you look at, and his YouTube highlights are amazing. But what you're seeing, obviously, on the YouTube highlights are all the great things that he did, and not necessarily all of the things that created frustrations within the fan base. I mean, he played 1,500 minutes last year, and you're seeing, 3 minutes of highlights. I think that's something to really take into account. And I'm not saying that that's, he doesn't have potential and there's not opportunity for him on this team. I'm just saying, buyer beware, right? He's definitely the guy who's going to come out, and when the Suns are either blowing the shit out of somebody or getting the shit blown out of them, Bobo's going to get into the game, and everybody's going to perk up in their seat. They're going to get a little excited because they want to see him play. But I do think it's a little unfair that when he was traded here, you see what the Bleacher Report puts out there on Twitter and all these different outlets, and it's like KD, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Bull's in the picture. Come on, man, right?
Right. Yeah. It comes off very sarcastic and just kind of fucked up. And I think it's mostly because of that Bull World Twitter page. I think that's kind of everyone knows that page. Yes. I wonder how that guy's feeling now with Bull being on the team. But it's just a joke, and if I was Bull, I would feel a lot of disrespect from that. Me personally, I wouldn't take that sort of level of disrespect.
Well, but it's what you do with that level of disrespect, right?
Exactly.
Can he utilize it as a motivating factor? I think that again, playing in 70 games for the Magic last year, that was a team that was giving away minutes like Oprah Winfrey because they're trying to develop some young players. And they have some talented guys. By the end of the season, he wasn't even playing on the team. He wasn't getting starting minutes. He was playing very sporadically. Essentially, he played himself off the court because from a defensive standpoint, he's really not that good. He's like last in the league in perimeter defense. Now, granted, he's a big, so you want him on the interior, but he has the same issue that I feel like Victor Wembanyama is going to have. Due to his sheer size, he has a high center of gravity point. So it'll be easy for him to get knocked off his spots on defense, and you can back him down. So even though he has length and he can block some shots, again, you take a look at last season, he had 85 total blocks for 1.2 per game. So he can block some shots due to his sheer length, but he is somebody who will get bullied on the interior because of his size. And that's something that Victor Wembanyama is going to go through his first couple seasons in the league. He's going to make some amazing defensive plays, as is Bol Bol, and he's going to get owned a lot because of his lack of girth, if you will.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he's built exactly like his dad. It's weird. It's like photocopy. But again, I see the upside in him, and if he's willing to put in the work, and I don't know if his metabolism will take putting on any muscle, but I get he's like a liability on defense and stuff, but we're talking the 15th guy on our bench for right now. So I'm not tripping. He's going to learn from some of the greats in today's game right now. Obviously, it didn't work in Denver because they just didn't have the time and development for him. And then with Orlando, like you said, they're bringing in all these different sort of cats. And if I had Wendell Carter and Bol Bol, I'm playing Wendell Carter every fucking game. So with Bol, I feel like he just hasn't been given a fair shake. Maybe this is his opportunity to pick up a couple things just so he can be a rotational player down the line. Probably not for this team, but just in general.
Now, I like what you said, and I think it's very important for Suns fans to hear what Jay said and understand that. We're talking about the 15th guy. He's a 13th, 14th, 15th guy on the team. So in that role, absolutely, it doesn't hurt me. And you said it earlier, and I agree. He's a low-risk, high-reward type of player. So, of course, you take a gamble on him. He has talent. We've seen the talent in his time at Oregon and his time in Denver and his time in Orlando. He has talent. He's had, obviously, issues staying healthy, and he has some very serious limitations as a player. But as long as you understand and accept who he is, your 13th, 14th, or 15th best guy, then you can be excited for him. It's when, again, they start to put him up there like he's going to be a regular rotation player that I just want to be like, hey, everybody, pump the brakes a little bit. He's a solid pickup for the back end of your bench, but to think that he's going to be an effective rotation player on a team that's built like the Suns have built, I'd be worried for us. If he's the guy who's coming in, he's getting 20 minutes a game, it's like, okay, who's injured? I just don't think that he is at that phase of his career yet where he has built up the stamina and the physical girth again, to hold his own on a consistent basis. And I'm not saying that it won't develop. He's a young cat, he's going to be I think he's 23 years old. So he's going to be entering his prime soon. So again, low risk, high reward. I'm okay with it. I will not be buying the jersey.
Yo.
It'll be a funny jersey, though. I'm not gonna lie.
You just have to get one that's super long, so it looks like you're in a pajama. I mean, you're how tall are you? You're 6'3", 6'2".
Oh no, I appreciate the compliment. I'm between 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah, because I'm 6 foot. I remember when I met you, I'm like, Jay's a little taller than me. So we'll have to buy the super extra long ones that goes down to our knee, and we're like, this is a Bol Bol authentic jersey because he's fucking 7'2".
Game worn.
Yeah, game worn. We got to get one of those game worn Bol Bol jerseys. You like what I titled this segment? The Bol Bol Soul Patrol.
I didn't catch that. Yeah, that's hard.
That's going to be the fun thing with Bol Bol is coming up with nicknames. And I like the drop that I made for him, but I definitely think it'll change because we're going to find nicknames. I mean, Bol Bol backwards is Lob Lob. I mean, a Lob Lob to Bol Bol. I can't wait. That's going to be the fun thing. But that's not going to be the primary things. Those are the secondary and tertiary things as a fan that you identify with the team and you love. And that's what's going to happen with Bol Bol. I understand that. That from a casual fan's perspective, they will adore this guy. Because when he comes in the game, like I said, it's just strange and different and weird, and you're just like, wow, look, that guy's massive, and oh, he dunked, once on the fourth team center for the Washington Wizards. So again, we'll see
What
how it
the
goes with Bol Bol. But
Nah, we're
welcome
living
to
in a
Phoenix,
fucking
Mr. Bol Bol.
matrix,
Now,
bro.
in the same breath, we say goodbye to one Cameron Payne.
Here comes the pain.
One of the last times we'll be playing it on the podcast, Cameron Payne is now a San Antonio Spur, Jay. He was traded yesterday, which, again, another thing that there were a lot of cookie crumbs laid out to let us know that he most likely wasn't going to be on this team. But nobody told Frank Vogel that, because Frank Vogel's been talking about how great campaign is and he's going to potentially be a starter in this offense. And they're like, we traded him. And he's like, what? Oh, shit. But we traded him to the San Antonio Spurs with cash and a future second-round pick, and we received a future protected second-round pick. So I'll ask you this question first. What are your thoughts just overall on the Suns trading Cameron Payne to the San Antonio Spurs?
I mean, it hurts. I mean, he's part of the original, the original crew that made it out the bubble and started that whole finals run. We're down to 2 now, and campaign, like I tweeted when the news first dropped, he was a big piece in the foundation that we created with the culture and everything that we established in the last couple of years. Yeah, his injury history wasn't the best, but campaign brought it just about every night. He did whatever he could, he was awesome. There was one point we were having serious conversations about him taking the mantle from Chris Paul low down the line. So if he wasn't as injured as he was, we might be having a different conversation right now. But campaign, he was playing in China. We took him on a limb and he delivered. And I appreciate every single game that he played for us. And I'll never forget that Clippers game when he dropped like 29 or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to campaign, man. If you ever see this camp, we love you here.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of campaign because he's part of the Suns that turned it all around for us, right? The same thing kind of happened when Ricky Rubio was traded, when Kelly Oubre was traded, Dario Saric when we traded him last year. A piece of you goes with those players because you appreciate who and what they meant to this franchise, because they were a major part of turning this around from a dumpster fire into a team that ended up in the NBA Finals. And Cameron Payne's a guy who came in, as you mentioned. Kelly Oubre and Aaron Baines didn't want to play in the bubble, so we needed to fill out the roster, so they brought in Cameron Payne, who, as the story goes, was sitting in his pool and got a call from Monty Williams and lost his mind because he had an opportunity to go to the Orlando bubble and play with the Phoenix Suns. He came out, he was part of that 8-0 bubble run. It was him and Javon Carter coming off the bench and playing just like mad dogs on defense and just pestering people. And then obviously the next season he was part of the team that went to the NBA Finals. He had an amazing playoff run, as you mentioned. When Chris Paul was out for 2 games with COVID, it was Cameron Payne who stepped in and stepped up for this team. Since that finals run, a couple seasons that were very injury prone, and a lot of those injuries were lower extremity injuries, which is a challenge for anyone whose nickname is Turbo. So having the ability to have burst and be shifty and do those things that he needs to do to fine tune and to just utilize his skill set in a manner that helps the team went out the door. Now that being said, even last season, he had a decent season for this team.
Yeah,
I was very anti-campaign at the beginning last summer, just because I just thought, hey, this is a guy for all the reasons I just mentioned. We took a chance on him, and maybe he peaked, right? He's hit his peak. And then Chris Paul was injured, and Devin Booker was injured. I mean, between those two players, Chris Paul and Devin Booker only played 39 games together last season. So Cameron Payne was called upon quite a bunch. And he averaged, as a starter, 7.1 assists. And that's when, as you mentioned, Jay, we started those conversations. It's like, well, Chris Paul's getting a little dinged up. Could Cam Payne be the point guard of the future? And some people thought it was a facetious comment, and other people were seriously contemplating it. But the last 2 postseasons didn't really show up. Is a little too emotional as a player. He plays very high, but when he starts to hit his lows, the lows occur. And good, bad, or indifferent, I don't know if he necessarily made sense for this team. What do you think about the transaction overall? I mean, the fact that we gave up a second-round pick and cash, and we got back a protected second-round pick. What a weird thing to get.
Yeah, I don't understand the logistics of all of it. Is there a limit to like swaps? Can you just keep on swapping?
The Suns have like 16 swaps on one pick.
That's what I'm saying. Like, can't do it with like all 29 other teams. Like, I'm starting to pick that up. But the transaction, of course, I would have liked a player back. But with Campaign, with his injury history, and his last two, seasons weren't entirely the best. You take what you can get, and this sort of means that the Suns are pretty high on Jordan Goodwin, and what we have in the point guard sort of class that we have right now, or they have their eyes on something else down the line because we have the two trade exceptions that we're going to be talking about a little later. But you keep the doors open for possible moves. But you take what you can get. The draft capital, I'm cool with that.
So I got a little game for us to play. Okay.
You know what time it is.
Trivia time. All right, a little trivia time for you. Okay, look. Career. I'm going to ask you over or under, and I'm going to give you a metric. And I want you to tell me if Campaign in his career as a Phoenix Sun was over or under that metric. And if you're watching along live, you can play along too. And hit the thumbs up button while you're here. So the first one is 20 minutes played per game as a member of the Phoenix Suns. Over or under for Cameron?
I want to say slightly over.
You are correct. 20.2 minutes. Just averaged over 20 minutes a game as a member of the Phoenix Suns in 3 seasons. 10 points per game, over or under, in his career as a Sun?
Over.
Under. 9.8 points per game.
That's round up, bro.
Yeah, it seems like he did more than that.
4 assists per game, over or under?
What was the number?
4 assists per game.
I'm going to go over on this one.
You are correct. Over 4.2.
Yeah.
So in his career as a Sun, he averaged 20.2 minutes per game, 9.8 points per game, and 4.2 assists per game. What about this one? 1.5 turnovers per game.
Oh, that's definitely over, right?
It's actually exactly what he averaged, 1.5.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's what it felt like, though, right? So you go 4.2 divided
Kevin,
by 1.5.
thanks. Bradley, great first half for you. Look, we know you come from a football-playing family. It looked like you wanted to establish control in a football-type way in the first half.
Oh, you have to. This is a physical game. You see the refs call. They call a lot of hard fouls, but.
Oh shit! So I know in Brad. He was like 39 or something. No, I'm picking over. Might as well go over again.
You're correct. 38.4%. Now I see why he's on fire podcast, because you were on fire with those questions.
I don't have to drop.
No, I don't either. I was like, "Where's Evan? Play like he's on fire. He's heating up." But yeah, 38.4% from beyond the arc. So if you look at the metrics clearly, and only, Payne wasn't as bad as probably a lot of people thought.
Right.
Now, the eye test says otherwise. We know who he is. We know what he is. I think my only challenge is the fact that his absence is the unknown right now, right? Because as you mentioned, Jordan Goodwin is expected to get plenty of playing time with this team. Saban Lee is there. You have Damian Lee. And you also have Eric Gordon. And that's your guard rotation. Do you feel that guard rotation right there, right, with Gordon, Goodwin, Lee, and Lee, is enough guard depth for this team?
As of right now, of course, I would like one additional piece. I think it's okay right now. I think we can get through it just because we know what Wood can do. We know what Beal can do. And then you add those other guys that you mentioned. I think we're pretty solid. I like what Saban Lee brings, him being the third string sort of element. If he just learns like how to finish more consistently, like he's going to be like a pretty nice piece to have. Damian Lee, he can bring the ball up the floor. He's not really going to do much. As long as he hits his threes, I mean, he's cool. But with Jordan Goodwin, there actually isn't a lot of film on YouTube about him. So,
No,
but
not really.
But everything that I've seen from Jordan Goodwin, I think he's a solid, solid dude. I think his IQ is there. I don't think he's going to be turning over the ball a lot, and he's going to push the pace. And I've been saying for years that the Suns play better when we push the pace and stuff. So
I'm so excited for next season because we're a team that's going to play with pace in the modern NBA. We're going to have guys that create such gravity that we're going to have some wide open catch and shoot players. We brought in some players who are going to excel at that. And you kept a player, Damian Lee, who's definitely going to excel at that. And that's what's going to be exciting about this team is, for the most part, the Phoenix Suns they've been an archaic team. And I guess that brings me to my next point here, and that's the Point Beal situation, the deal with Point Beal. Shams Charania tweeted out yesterday that Bradley Beal is going to get the majority of the reps at the point guard position, and that essentially means that the Suns have committed to the Point Beal, Point Book modus operandi with those backup guards, as stated. And I think that it's about time that they did this. I wrote a piece that was published on Bright Side of the Sun today talking about how it's about time that the Suns embrace the modern NBA, and James Jones is finally doing that, and it makes sense as to why they didn't in the past. They had Chris Paul. They had one of the oldest old school point guard you had, who's unbelievably cerebral, but at the same time, due to his style of play, it negated some of the effectiveness overall of the offense because it took so long for the offense to get into. For those who are the DA apologists and the DA stands, I really think that they're going to enjoy this season because it's going to be a lot more free-flowing offense, and DA is going to benefit from that. Because in the past, if you'd watch it, it would literally be Chris Paul running high screens and rolls with DA. He'd run a high screen, and then DA would drop, on the roll, and Chris Paul, when he get the ball to him, he'd back out. He'd pass it across the court. They pass it back to Chris Paul. DA's running out there to set a screen. Oh, no, I got to run over here and set. DA would set 5 screens in one possession and not get the ball, touch the ball once. And then Chris Paul would just get to the mid-range, shoot a 15-footer, and if it went in, great. But if not, DA is just running around on offense with no reward in sight. Whereas now, with the pace that this team is designed to play, with the fact that you have Bradley Beal and Devin Booker running the playmaking point of view, it's much akin to how a lot of teams have been executing their offenses for quite some time now, right?
Right, yeah. Exactly what you said, man. It's that tradition. I'm a sucker for traditional point guards. It's just a beautiful flowing game, but playing like that just regresses 3-point shooting. You take least efficient shots, which is the mid jumper, and then I feel from a big man perspective in DeAndre Ayton's shoes, where you set that pick, you set 4 or 5, the shot clock is already down to less than 10. And you already did the roll, and now you're just boxing out, just standing there, just waiting for something to happen, and you're just get caught ball watching and stuff. It just wasn't it worked the first 2 seasons. It was very effective because our pick and roll was really good. But when Chris started regressing more and more, the offense made no sense, and Monty didn't adjust to that. So, but with this Beal dominant, both dominant sort of guard splits between the point guard and shooting guard position, not only the pace is going to pick up, but the shots are going to be flying, and it's going to be going in at a high clip. So I really can't wait for that. And with DeAndre Ayton, he can just go down there, fucking pound down there, and get on the rock and get a quick inlet pass in, and then you're back playing defense. So if we can get sort of the 7 seconds or less sort of flow going, it doesn't exactly need to be that. I think we're cooking with grease there.
I completely agree, and I think that what's going to excite DeAndre is not only is he going to have the ability to be coached and relied upon on defense and rewarded for his efforts with positive reinforcement by his coaching staff instead of being neglected, but I also think that he's going to be rewarded on offense for his hustle because of the way that the defense is going to have to try to account for Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker. It's unbelievable. Now, obviously, the other side of this and the biggest concern with a lot of people, and Salty's Gaming, shout out to Salty in the chat, he goes, has Beal ever played point guard? Right? So that's the big thing that everybody's worried about. They're like, well, if they have, if he hasn't played point guard, we know
He
Book
literally
has.
played like
If
last
he
year
hasn't
at
played
Washington,
point
like
guard,
for the last few years.
we're kind of worried
From
about that.
Washington.
And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring up some statistics, and this is Bradley Beal's playmaking statistics last season. And if you look at the very bottom metric, and this is all from Basketball Index, they do an amazing job of putting together some very extensive advanced statistics, and his playmaking talent overall is 96%. It's an A+, so he's in the 96th percentile. His scoring gravity, obviously, is 100% A+. When you look at passing efficiency, that's where he struggles, according to this. But essentially, the passing efficiency, it's hard to get assists off guys who aren't making shots, and he was playing on a team with a lot of guys who weren't making shots. And the other, way to answer that question that Salty just proposed is, if you look on Basketball Reference, it'll actually show you the play-by-play, to the best of their ability by position. And if you look last season, Bradley Beal played the point guard position 10% of the time. And the season before that, he played 16% of the time. So that's not to say that he hasn't played a ton of point guard. He really hasn't, but he has played it in the past. So I think that it's something that the Suns are definitely going to excel at, because you throw in the KD factor, right? You throw in the factor that there's other players. Eric Gordon's going to come in, and when we start to mix and match our lineups, you're going to have just playmakers. Now, they're not traditional point guards, and I'm with you, Jay. I'm a Phoenix Suns fan, man. We're used to having point guards, elite point guards in this city. Kevin Johnson, Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, Stephon Marbury, Chris Paul, even Ricky Rubio for that 1 year. It's just, you go on down the line, and that's what we're used to. But if you go and you look at the past few years, and I've made this point multiple times throughout the summer, the past champions haven't had a traditional point guard.
Yeah.
Go back, who was the point guard on the Jordan teams? Fucking
BJ.
Yeah, B.J. Armstrong the first go round with a little John Claxton and some Kerr the second go round. Yeah, that elite Hall of Famer because of his point guard play, Steve Kerr. Look at the LeBron years. Look at the Kobe years. Like, we don't need that traditional point guard. The John Stocktons, yeah, he didn't win a ring. Steve Nash didn't win a ring. Chris Paul hasn't won a ring. There's a trend here, folks. It's gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay, right?
It's worth a try, man. I mean, just go and just in the previous, the champions in the last few years. Jamal Murray, he's more of a shooting guard than anything. They just threw him in the point guard position. Steph Curry, a lot of people put him in the point guard category. But if you talk to anybody that watches a lot of hoops, they sort of put him in the shooting guard category. He just plays point guard. Drew Holiday, not your traditional point guard. He's a point of attack defender, and the list goes on and on. I mean, even Alex Caruso.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was who played the primary point guard when they won in the bubble.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't need a traditional point guard, but I absolutely love traditional point guards. It just doesn't work in today's NBA right now. And to have a versatile guy like Bradley Beal that we get to jump up our point production from that point guard position. But the defensive liability thing is so annoying. By the way, I hate that sort of take that's going around right now. Bradley Beal will play defense a lot better than Chris Paul, and he won't be a liability at that end either. So that point guard position with Beal is going to be great. The whole passing metric starts with that first pass. And that first pass is either going to be to Kevin Durant or Devin Booker, and those numbers are going to be jumping up. So I don't give a fuck about your numbers.
And
take
the
that
gravity,
for data, Josh.
Yeah, there's your data right there. I'm okay with that, okay, because I agree. And on both sides of the ball, I completely agree. You have somebody who is athletic, and you have somebody who is going to draw gravity himself. That's going to provide opportunities for his teammates like he has never seen before. Why do you think Kyle Kuzma was so good last year? Because a lot of gravity was towards Bradley Beal.
Right.
And it's just what it is. Yeah, and it's playing next to Beal. So, obviously, it doesn't sound like either of us are concerned with this strategy. Do you still think there's a move to be made at the guard position for Phoenix?
I think it's definitely out there. I'll take what Matt said on 98.7. He thinks that the roster is good as it is, which I agree. But if there's a move out there to get not TJ McConnell, but somewhere in that range, I would put maybe TJ on like top 130 or something and campaign on 175. If we could get somebody like in between there or something in the guard position, I think that would be a nice little addition. And then we can shut up the people like Richard Jefferson saying like, "Oh, they don't have a point guard. It ain't gonna work," you know? So.
Yeah, that's the chink in our armor right there, is the fact that we don't have a point guard. No, I agree. I think there's a move out there, and I think it's a trade deadline move.
Yeah,
I think it's us using our TPE in an effort to try to get somebody. I think that there's somebody who's going to be bought out, and we'll have the ability to go get that person for $6 million, and they'll fulfill a need of this team, and it'll be at the guard position. Because the one thing that scares me, the one thing that throws obviously the monkey wrench in all this, is injuries. And Devin Booker, Bradley Beal both have a history of injuries, and knowing that we have Eric Gordon. We all knew when we got Eric Gordon, campaign was on the way out the door. I mean, that was it. It's like, oh, we just upgraded the shit out of campaign. And knowing that we have Damian Lee, and knowing we have Saban Lee, and knowing that we have Jordan Goodwin, we have some depth there. It's unproven depth, in my opinion, at this point, and that's obviously the one. If you were to ask me my one concern about this Phoenix Suns team as it is, it's not Bol, it's not our wing depth, it's not our shooting. It's our guard depth, because we have guards who have a history of being injured, and we're going to be leaning into them, right? They're both going to be quote unquote playmakers or point guards in this new system. So if Frank Vogel's astute enough and he has the ability to take his lineups and feather them, in ensuring that Jordan Goodwin gets plenty of playing time, and Eric Gordon gets plenty of playing time, and we can survive those midseason injuries, it's going to be something that if they want to just bolster that lineup going to the playoffs, you go out there, you get the guy. Maybe T.J. McConnell gets bought out by Indy because they don't want to pay his $9 million next year, and we can go and we get him, for the rest of the season. So I think that's the last move that needs to be made.
I totally agree. Yeah, not buyout, but yeah, trade deadline move. That would probably be our final move, final nail in the coffin going forward. But I think as of right now, I think we're good, and I just want to get the ball rolling, and I wish the season started next week.
Me too. It sucks. It's like it's a summer away right now, because I've never looked at a lineup from the Suns and I don't know if I've ever been this excited. Yeah. I mean, I've been excited. Don't get me wrong. A couple seasons ago, after we went to the finals, I was excited for that team the next year. Coming into this season, I wasn't nearly as excited because I saw the gaps. Chris Paul was getting older, yada, yada. I remember the 94 team. Obviously, I'm older than you, but the 94 team, after we lost to Jordan, that 94 team, we got better, And I'm like, dude, this team's going to be amazing. Obviously, injuries, and the fucking Rockets killed us in that one. But this is I'm with you. I absolutely can't wait. Now, there's my dog barking. Next thing I want to talk about real quick is, as you mentioned earlier, the fact that we traded with the Orlando Magic and we acquired 3 future second-round picks in exchange for a future first-round pick swap, which I believe is 2026 is when that, there's 6 pick swaps, as you mentioned. So we get the worst of the worst of the worst pick swap. What do you think about that? We got 3 second-round picks. We gave up a first-round pick swap in a deal with Orlando.
I like the draft compensation, and I think Orlando's a lot closer to being a really good team in the East. They have a lot of good pieces. A lot of people were criticizing that Black pickup. I forget his first name.
Anthony Black.
Anthony Black. Yeah. But I think he's a stud. He can shoot all 5 points in the offense, and they have Wendell Carter. They have Cole Anthony. They have the guard depth. They have the big guys. I think they're going to be pretty good. So. The pick might suck a little later on, but hey, if I had to, put some money down, I would think Orlando is going to be sort of bad. By 2026, they might have a 2-year run or something. It might start now and then next year, and then we have that a little nice pick. But.
Well, I think it's just a super smart move. Again, by James Jones, by giving us some more draft capital, because you're going to need some of those picks to sweeten a deal, and that was my one worry, was we've given away the majority of our pick swaps, and then we gave away all of our second-round picks. So what are we going to do to entice future trades outside of the new draft picks that will become available at the end of next season? And I think it was just another good, smart basketball move. You know, the campaign thing, I think that was a good smart basketball move too. I forget who put it out. It might have been Keith Smith, who does all the spot track stuff. And he talked about trading Cameron Payne ultimately saved the Suns like $27 million because of the tax apron. Yeah, it's ridiculous. You know, he's a $6.5 million contract, but due to the fact that you were in the second tax apron, it ends up being like $27 million you saved. Yeah, we get a protected second-round pick, which means we'll never see that pick. And that's okay. That's not what the purpose of that was. But then, almost simultaneously, they traded first-round pick swap for 3 second-round picks because 2 things are going to happen there. One, that pick swap ultimately doesn't matter. You expect yourself to be good, so you're like, okay, so the 30th pick, the 27th pick, like people who are concerned about the fact that we don't have first-round picks for the foreseeable future think that being in the lottery is a good thing and having lottery picks is a good thing. It's not if you're trying to win, right? So if you can trade that for second-round picks, and we've seen, I mean, second-round picks have all of a sudden become like the newest, hottest trend. They're like Crocs. Like, and it's like acceptable. Like, it's acceptable to trade second-round picks, right? Like, Jay Crowder went for 5 second-round picks. Like, that's a lot of Crocs, man.
And how many second-rounders were in the Rudy Gobert trade?
Oh, my God, dude.
Yeah.
It was like 45, I think it was. It was one for each of Donovan Mitchell's jersey numbers. It's like unbelievable.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy. I really didn't know about like the quantity of second-round picks that each team has, but hey, they don't give a fuck, you know. They just just sweetens the pot a little bit, you know.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's meant to be like, hey, we're giving you this in case you want to sweeten the pot again at some point too. And and like you said, with Orlando, with those second-round picks that we're going to receive, Orlando's a team that, I don't know about you, but like, I'm excited. Like, I love Paolo Banchero.
He's a stud.
He's probably, of players who don't play for the Phoenix Suns, he's probably like my second or third favorite player in the NBA. Like, Mikal Bridges is number 1. And I think like Paolo's number 2. And obviously the only reason that Mikal's number 1 is because he played here and I have an emotional connection to him. But like, I love Paolo Banchero. I think that he's going to be fantastic. He was a great rookie. Any chance I could see him, I did. I drafted him onto my 2K team. I love him even more because he's amazing. I love the guy. So I think that they have some opportunity to be a better team, but I just don't know if they're going to be able to put it all together. And if they don't, the Suns benefit because we have their second-round picks, which are not great things, but they're picks that you can utilize, as you mentioned, to sweeten the pot. So I think, again, James Jones just crushing it, man. Like, to think, I retweeted the other day, there was a poll that was put out on, like, May 12th, right after the Suns got eliminated. People were like, should James Jones be fired? And, like, 36% of the people said yes. Shame on all of you.
Yeah.
Like, this guy, now that he doesn't have Robert Sarver handcuffing him to penny pinch every dime possible, he's got a guy who's like, dude, make it happen. He's got to be the happiest GM in the entire league right now. He's just out there.
The card.
Dude,
he's like a gold digging wife. He's just fucking.
He's got that Amex Black card just going out everywhere. Just, I don't care. I'm going to make it happen. But he's also made some really smart, astute decisions. So it's not only James Jones, but the people around him are good, smart basketball people. And that's what you like to see, and that's what I'm proud of. And then, obviously, you have Matt Ishbia, the one who's been empowering him. And as I mentioned at the front end of the podcast, he is bringing the Suns back to free TV. He's bringing it to local. And I love what he said on Burns & Gamble. Because everyone's like, okay, well, I don't live locally. Streaming. And they talked about they're going to have something in the works relative to streaming to make it easier and most likely free for people as well. But for those who live locally, it now puts them in 2.8 million houses. And as he mentioned on Burns & Gamble, he's like, every hotel, every bar, they get the Suns game now, like guaranteed, because it's on local TV. And it's such a huge win. And what the most important thing to me when it comes to that deal is he's a man of his word. Because he said, I'm all about the fan experience. He's like, the 2 most important things, building a winner and making it the best fan experience in the NBA. And by opening up those avenues, there's kids, who don't have cable or don't have the ability to watch Suns games because of blackouts. And now they can see the Suns and they can grow up to be just as miserable as we.
Yeah, no, dude, like, this is such a a W, man. Yeah, like that, like everything he says, like might as well put it like in a hardcover Bible, you know. It's the word of God at this point. Like what Matt is doing for Phoenix and just the state of Arizona in general is absolutely amazing. He needs to buy the Cardinals. He needs to buy the Diamondbacks. Yeah, like even the Rattlers. Fuck it, you know. So, like what he's doing is absolutely incredible, and I literally can't wait. Fuck Valley Sports. I can't wait to have the app and throw it up on and hear Eddie Johnson talking shit and hearing that whole breakdown and stuff. I can't wait for that. And then we're gonna talk about the other stuff he's been doing, but yeah, shout out Matt, dude.
Yeah, it's just again, it's the fan experience. Being a Phoenix Suns fan, it's like we're the best thing in town right now. We are. Because the Diamondbacks are starting to suck ass a little bit, and the Cardinals are going to be really bad this year. Go Dodgers. Another thing that HBS said on the Birds and Gambo show is something that I think a lot of us we've been waiting to hear. It doesn't truly matter, but it does matter. Let me bring up that up.
With the new ownership to have a G League team, is there any update at all on that?
That won't be something you'll be talking about in a week or two. How about that? I can promise you that. So that's all I'll say is that, we believe in developing young players. We don't have a G League team. We don't plan on that happening long term. And in the very near future, hopefully, we'll be able to officially announce a different strategy on that. But we believe in, right now you have the 3 two-way players, so we have some benefits already, but just not the G League team ourselves. And that's something that we plan on changing. And I've talked about that before, but it's not done yet, but we do plan on that. And hopefully you won't be asking that question much longer because we're going to continue to invest in our team, invest in our future, and a G League team is important.
With the new ownership to have a G League team, is there any update at all?
Oh, okay. We only hear it once. It's Gambo, so you got to play everything 3 times because that's what he does. He says everything 3 times. So what are your thoughts on a G League team, and then what are your thoughts on the fact that he is bringing a G League team?
Man, you dropping audios now in the podcast? That's huge, dude. That's huge.
What I do now. I figured out how.
Tell me how to do that later because I need to do that. But with the G League team, it's what we've been asking for since they got rid of the NAU team, and I think the plan is to put them in Tucson, which makes like a little more sense.
Rather, it was Prescott where they played before. The Northern Arizona Suns played Prescott, which is like interesting.
Right? Yeah. I mean, good weather. I mean, I might as well. But no, like every team, and Portland just announced their G League team that you needed that development, and you need, like. If we were going through those injuries last year, it would have been nice to call up a few guys that have been, fresh and have been playing in, games at the same time as we were and stuff. Like this is going to be really nice for us. And I like the G League too. Again, another mad dub. You need a job for that. Another mad dub.
That's a good idea. Yeah, when you talk about the G League overall. Some people are just like, you know what, it's no big deal. And the way that I look at it is, technically you're right, it isn't. But at the same time, you want every competitive advantage you have in an effort to try to generate talent and put your team in a situation in which people want to come to your organization. We were the only team left that doesn't have a G League. Look at the Miami Heat. Okay, now they're clearly the exception versus the rule. But they had, 8 undrafted players, and 7 of them had played in the G League as an opportunity to develop. We take a look at what this roster is right now. You have people like Tumani Kamara, who, instead of having him just be like, okay, come here, play in a 2-way, you're going to get 10 minutes a night, and you're going to play in a third of the games. Send him to a place where he can play consistently, and you can develop your organizational culture from the G League on up. Now, I know that that's possible. We could send players down, and they could play for other G League teams, but we didn't do that. We need to have a roster, as you mentioned, of guys ready to go that are part of this culture who we can bring up and can get those reps in. Tumani Kamara is phenomenal. Of course, the one time we don't do a post-game podcast, he goes for 20 and fucking 10. And I'm just like, oh, of course, And I think that it'd be great to have him playing down in Tucson if that's where they're going to end up. can get consistent minutes for a time.
Hey, poured it on tonight.
John. Feel a little bit more comfortable about the skill set that he can have. Ultimately, I look at it like this. It's either I'd rather have it, not need it, than need it, not have it.
Exactly.
And we've needed it, and we haven't had it over the past couple years. And I like that Matt Ishbia talked about the fact that he wants to be in development. That is a stark contrast to what James Jones has shown us that he believes in. He's a guy who's going to build a team with proven guys. Tamani Kamara even be one of those. He's a 4-year starter in college, at 2 different universities. So that's what he wants to focus on. But still, this is Matt Ishbia even saying, like, listen, we want to invest in development. And again, you talk about fan experience. Put that team down in Tucson. There's a massive population down there. They can go down there just like farm systems throughout all of Major League Baseball. And you develop your fan base from a farm system, and it fortifies ultimately who you are, and it benefits the fan experience and your team. Again, why not?
And I'm going to bring up one of your favorite players in the last couple of years, Jordan Poole.
Heating up.
So, the Warriors for years, they did not touch their G League team for years, but they had players in development stuff, and eventually they called up Jordan Poole, and he ended up being a pivotal piece in their most recent championship against the Celtics. And of course, he's not on the team anymore because he's Jordan Poole. But
he's very punchable.
Yeah, he's very punchable, right? And it happened. So, just incidents like that, and what Miami does, and I'll even throw the Knicks up there because the Knicks have called up a few guys and they put up good numbers. It's important, and like you said, you rather have it than need it later than however you phrase it. I've never been good with that phrase, but
have it not need it, need it not have it.
Exactly, you spin it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's another win for Matt Ishbia, and again, another reason to be excited for this team, and another reason that we're all pissed off that we have to wait 2 months before training camp starts before we can even start to get excited again. So, again, I think that the state of the franchise is in a great place, and I think that the moves that have been made make sense, and that's something that I appreciate because there's been moves made in the past that just didn't make sense, and that goes back to drafting sticks. That goes back, year after year of just what the fuck are we doing with Ryan McDonough? And, that's kind of a thing of the past right now. Now, ultimately, the only thing that matters is a championship. We're on the right track, and that's the conversation that you want to be mentioned in. But I'll ask you this question. It's a question I'm going to ask everybody who comes on the podcast throughout the entire summer. Way too early predictions. What's the Phoenix Suns record at the end of the year? You're going on record right now on July 17th.
What was our record that we just ended with?
45 and 45. Something or other, and 37.
45, 37, yeah. Something like that. I can see this team being 55 plus, and I think I'm a roll with 55. I think that's a good number to pick for right now.
Okay. You're going with the who was number 55? Was Trey Jameson wearing number 55 over there in Summer League?
I think he was. Yeah,
there you go. You're going with the Trey Jameson. Okay, let's do it. Last thing I want to talk about before we get out of here, Eric Gordon is going to wear number 23. Air Gordon. It's official. R.I.P. Cam Johnson. Just like that, 23's taken. What do you think about that? He wore number 10 pretty much his whole career, but Damian Lee's got that. Do you think that he asked Damian Lee to wear it, and Damian Lee told him to get fucked?
I don't think Aaron Gordon is a guy that asks for a lot of things. I just don't get that feeling. The 23 is a little weird on him. I would have preferred a number if Bill Russell didn't die, 6 would have been a good number for him, or or 4. It's just something like that, But because I like guards having guard numbers. It's kind of like in the NFL, when you see a QB with 37, you're like, what the fuck is this? You prefer 1 through 20 max. So 23, cool, and it looks nice on the statement jersey, and we have Aaron Gordon, and it's not a cardboard cutout, so we know it's real.
Well, just so everyone knows, when he played college ball at Indiana, he did wear number 23, so he's going back to his college roots. So, and I do think, agreed, it looks great on a jersey, obviously. I'm a huge Jordan fan. He's the GOAT, and that looks so good. So, it sucks because it's Cam Johnson, but it's just kind of that time to move on, guys. Time to move on. It's the past, and we got to let it go. So, anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here?
One thing that I did think about today was like, what's like the status with like T.J. Warren and Terrence Ross, because they haven't been picked up yet, and I wonder if we possibly put these guys on the two-way. I don't know, probably not. But
Nah, probably not. I think that's what I was actually thinking when I was thinking about guard depth. If we need to let another guard, like give me Terrence Ross, and I just feel a little bit better.
Yeah,
I think it's a huge win. And then like waive Ish Wainwright. Like I would take Terrence Ross over Ish Wainwright in a second. But I was wondering the same thing myself. There's a lot of guys that were on this team that don't have teams anymore. It just kind of goes to show you. Remember that Terrence Ross was somebody who was bought out by Orlando, and he had an opportunity to decide. They waived him, and he decided to come here instead of Dallas. T.J. Warren was a throw-in in the Kevin Durant trade and didn't obviously get a chance. And it's just kind of crazy how T.J. Warren, who we once thought was the backbone of our franchise, it was him and Booker, like can't even get a minimum somewhere. It's kind of crazy, huh?
Yeah, like the only reason why I thought of it today is like I was going through like Twitter, and I just ended up with being on my following list, and Terrence Ross came up, and he still has Phoenix Suns guard, and I'm like, oh. And one of the biggest blunders of Monty Williams' fucking tenure here is how he treated Terrence Ross, and I thought Ross was the perfect signing then, and still is now. And Matt, if you're listening, please bring back Terrence Ross, and please.
Hey, Ishmael, we want one more win. Get rid of Ish Wainwright. Bring us Terrence Ross, okay? I'm just saying.
One more go.
Because one guy can hit corner threes, and the other guy used to play football. I don't know if Matt Ishmael knew that, but he played football at Baylor. So I don't know if we need that guy on the team. He has broad shoulders, like I love you, Ish, but like I just don't love you on this team. You're probably the weakest spot I have out there. I have zero excitement for him. As I go up and down the lineup, they're like, I'm excited to see like Chimezie Metu. I want to see what he can bring, and obviously Keita Bates-Diop. I want to see how he fits in, and Drew Eubanks, and even Bol Bol, as we mentioned at the front end. But then it's like, and then there's, our good old buddy with one of the best drops here, Ish Wainwright. Ish going down. I'm yelling, Wainwright. You better move. You better dunk. To get rid of him just so I can get rid of that drop, because ain't nobody want to see that shit. So, on that note, thank you to all the Jamsters that decided to join us, whether you're watching along live or later, or if you're listening to the podcast. We truly appreciate it. Take some time out of your day if you can. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Give us a thumbs up on the YouTube feed. Leave a comment if you like. We always interact with our fans that way. Again, Jay, let everyone know where they can find you and the amazing content that you and Coach Evan B throw out there.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at JJoyce, JAYY Joyce. Follow us at the He's on Fire podcast and catch us there. And go Suns.
Amen. Appreciate you coming on. It's fun talking basketball with you.
Appreciate it.
And again, everybody, follow me at Darth Voida. Read my writing at Bright Side of the Sun. I have a nice piece coming out tomorrow morning talking about how everyone needs just to get over the fact that Isaiah Thomas is around the organization. Like, that's my thing. Just get over it, people. Like, I get it. He was accused of something horrible. It brings up scars of something that this team has recently dealt with. But he's paid his debt to society. Just move on. He's going to be around, and it's actually a good thing for Matt Ishbia to have somebody who has that much experience. Just as long as he's not letting him make the decisions, because he made some pretty shitty ones with the Knicks when he was the general manager. So, on that note, Jamsters, make sure you subscribe, rate, review, and go home and love your family.
Let's get it.